Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Williamson County Sports Connection. I'm Jack Daniels, your host, and with me for today's show is the new head football coach at Summit High School, Coach Brian Coleman. Coach, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mr. Daniels. How you doing?
Well, we're going to start with you and just let you tell us where you grew up, where you went to high school, the sports you played, where you went to college, if you played ball there, and then when you got out of college, where'd you start coaching at, and just kind of tell us everything about yourself.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm from Chapel Hill, Tennessee. I went to Forest High School, played baseball and football. Really liked football, so I got a small scholarship to Bethel College, Bethel University now. I first went to UT Martin. I went to UT Martin for a year and walked on. Then I went to Bethel. Coach Murray Houghton was at Bethel. He's an old-time coach from Forest. He was at Bethel for a few years, so he kind of recruited me to Bethel University. Went there for 4 years and spent another year as a assistant, a volunteer assistant, coaching assistant, and coached D-line there. From there, I went to Marshall County High School and under Coach McCurry. I was there for about 6 years. Learned a lot from Coach McCurry. He's a good guy. Learned a lot about character curriculum and things like that he taught football players. More than just X's and O's with him. He was trying to teach these guys how to be great individuals, great young men, fathers, employers later on in life. I thought he did an excellent job with that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Forest High School as a defense coordinator for 2 years under Coach Kyle Stacy, great man. Learned a lot from him. He's a great family man. Then I went to Riverdale for 2 years under Coach Adelot. Coach Adelot's a great coach, great X's and O's, offensive mind, and his speeches on Thursday, we'd have a short walkthrough on Thursdays, and man, he'd give these kids a speech after practice, and it just make anybody want to run through a brick wall for him. He gave some great speeches on those Thursdays. Learned a lot from him. Coach Bobby Wells was the defense coordinator. I worked a lot under him and learned a lot of defense under him. He's also a great coach. Then I was given the opportunity to be the head coach at Forest after that. So I was only there for 1 year. We had a 7-3 regular season record, went to second round of the playoffs and got beat by Adamsville, and they ended up being in the state championship game and got beat by Trousdale. So had a great season there. Tough to leave because that was my hometown. So then I left there and got an opportunity at Summit, and Dr. Farmer and Coach Kirby are great guys, and it was hard to pass that opportunity down. It's a beautiful school. The support is there, so I think it's going to be a program builder there, and I think everything's in place to do that. Mm-hmm. But it was tough. The kids at Forest were great kids.
Right.
Hometown type thing, so it was tough. The kids did everything I asked them to, and that was probably the hardest things I've ever had to do, was to tell them that I was leaving.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to back up to Bethel. I think Bethel's a NAI school.
Yes, sir, NAI.
And what positions did you play over at
Defensive end.
Okay.
Defensive end there. Played middle linebacker and things like that in high school. Then I got to Bethel, played defensive end. Cock 9 technique, and all we did was just rush off the edge.
Mm-hmm. Now, was you a little bit more husky back then?
Just Coach? A little bit, yes, sir. A little bit quicker.
Because when you look at college defensive ends nowadays, they're guys that are
they're huge. They're huge. And NAI is it's a smaller division, but it's very competitive. I mean, it's good football for people that aren't really the D1 talent, but really still want to play the game and still want to play football and get some of their college paid for.
Mm-hmm. We send a lot of kids, I think, from Middle Tennessee into schools like that, like Cumberland University, and then Bethel, and then up to Campbellsville. Mm-hmm. A lot of kids from this area go play NAI. It's really good football. It's very competitive, and it's a good brand. So kind of comes to mind when you say defensive end. I think of this kid from South Carolina, Clowney.
Yes,
maybe the number one pick in the NFL draft coming up here in April. He's got guys like that, they just don't come around very often, do they?
He's a freak, for lack of better words, I guess. Speed and size. I guess he's probably 6'4", 6'5", and weighing well over 250, and probably can run a 4.3 or 4.40. So yes, sir, he is a talented individual.
Now, you got any guys like that down at Summit?
No, sir, we don't yet. We're building them, though.
Well, let's talk about your assistant coaches. Have you gone through the process? I know you hadn't been over at Summit very long, but I know a lot of their staff, I think, probably will still be there at Summit. Have you gone through the process of doing interviews with those guys? Are any of those guys going to stay and be a part of your staff?
I think there's a few of them going to stay. We went and we're just going to get the knowing each other stage right now, whether they like my philosophy, whether they like my coaching techniques and things like that. So we're going to sit down in about a week and determine who all's going to stay or who all's going to go. There's a couple guys that have already determined that they're going to go ahead and leave because they've got better opportunities. So we're in the, I guess, getting to know each other stage right now.
Okay. So you don't know how many coaches actually you're going to have to maybe bring in from the outside?
No, sir, not yet. No, sir, not yet.
So you're more of a defensive-minded person.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about what your defensive philosophy is then.
We're going to use smaller, quicker guys. The defensive linemen, we're not going to play two-gap technique. It's not going to be our, of course, we may not even have them at some of, the 6'4", 300-pound guys that plug up the holes. We're going to use the smaller type kids, 6 foot, 200-pound that are quicker, a 3-4 defense.
Okay.
And we're going to angle all the time. And then, so you're going to have to be athletic. The thing about defense, all 11 guys have to run the football. So you have to be capable of running sideline to sideline, everybody has to. So we're going to use the more athletic guys on defense. And like I said, angle and outside linebackers are going to be they're going to have to be our better football players because they're going to be coming off the edge a lot. Middle linebackers could be the pluggers, and then run different coverage. You can run any coverage with that.
Now, when you say, terminology-wise, when you say angle, are you referring to a defensive lineman slanting to one side of the ball or the other, or do you set him at an angle?
No, sir. He's going to slant. He's going to stay square, and he's going to slant one side or the other. He's going to slant left or right all the time.
And that helps with smaller D linemen for sure, because they don't get blowed off the ball when they try to catch and read and get to the football, that kind of thing.
Most high school kids, they're capable, they're strong enough, but it's hard for a high school kid to come face match to face match with a guy and get him off of him and then play two gaps, get off of him and be able to make the tackle on either gap. So we're going to be moving all the time, keep the offensive line guessing that he don't know where that man's going to go. And sometimes we may get some slower offensive line we play against, and they can get a run through and beat that man off the football.
Do you use your safeties very much to help in your run support on your D gap?
Especially the strong safety. He'll roll up. When you bring an outside linebacker off the edge, he rolls up to that side and plays flats and plays run support.
I know a lot of times terminology's changing and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes they go to like a field safety and a sideline safety, or do you kind of rotate your guy according to their formation?
According to their formation, their tendencies. He can roll either to the wide side of the field. It'd probably be more like tendency. Probably the strength of their offense, he'll roll to that side, which side would, most receiver side. If they're even, then we might roll them to the field.
So as a defensive coordinator, what do you hate the most? I mean, what kind of offense do you hate the most as far as you're facing?
And now getting into this region, I really I don't know what I'm doing here, but spread offenses I think are tough. Multiple receivers, empty formation with just the quarterback in the backfield. They go 5 wide receivers. It's it's awful tough to defend sometimes, especially when you have a good quarterback. And in this region, I believe there's a lot of good quarterbacks and athletic quarterbacks who can run. That's the kind of athletes that can hurt you because they spread you out so thin, and then a lot of teams just spread you out to run the ball. So. That offense, and most of the teams in the region run that offense.
You kind of like take those, outside backers, make them like a hybrid safety and bump them out in coverage sometimes?
Yes, sir, sometimes.
Sometimes. It's always probably good at some point to be able to stop the run. You got to have those guys in there a lot of times.
You've got to stop the run.
Yeah.
I think you've got to stop the run first and, make people throw the ball, but, some people are good at throwing the ball. You want to take away what they're best at, but you've got to, in my opinion, you've got to be able to run the football and stop the run. Offensively, you got to be able to run the football, and defensively, you got to be able to stop the run.
Well, coming from Marshall County with Mac when he was there, and being at Riverdale with
Coach A.
Coach A, I'm taking it. We're going to look in and find what we see on the board back here on a little bit of wing T stuff.
Yes, sir. I've always been around the wing T offense, and I really, really like it. It's tough to prepare for a defense because you really don't see it very often. And I believe. Well, there's not very many people in the state of Tennessee that even run the wing T anymore.
Right.
So it's hard to prepare for it, and if you do it correctly, there's a lot of faking involved, and they don't know where the football is. Coach Mack, he did an excellent job with the wing tee, and I was there for 6 years. And then Coach A, he says he still has his wing tee card, and he'll pull it out of a wallet. It's a card that says wing tee offense guru or something like that. But he's more, he's changed the wing tee a little bit, especially when I was there, because we had a really good quarterback, Dylan Woodruff. So he changed some things with the offense, but it's the same basic concepts up front. You're still pulling the guard, you're still down blocking, things like that. So, and we've talked about it to a lot of people. Auburn this year, I think, that's basically a wing tee offense too, up front anyway, the way they pull the guards and the way they block up front.
Now, a lot of times in the wing tee, the traditional wing tee, they got to have a pretty physical tight end.
Yes, sir.
Up there. And,
yes, sir.
You have a little flexibility. If you don't have that kid, that you go with 2 wideouts and go double wing. I mean,
you can, and you can go double wing. You can motion out of it a lot to get that other wing back to the running back position. So, and you can spread it out with 2 wide receivers. But that tight end is important. He's got to block down a lot. He's almost like another tackle for you. He's got to, and he's got to be an athletic guy, because he's not going to be, the big tackle. He's still got to catch some passes on your bootleg and things like that. So he's got to get across the field. So he is a unique athlete. Probably the same type of kid that your outside linebacker on defense is that tight end kid. Prototypical 6'2", 200 pounds if you'd like to, but he's got to be strong enough to down block and get his head in front of a defensive tackle or somebody like that.
Well, you mentioned up Auburn. I think a lot of schools and colleges and high schools too, they're getting to that quarterback who can do both things. They can run the football and throw the football. It puts a lot more pressure on the defense.
It's a lot of pressure on the defense.
And in that scenario, in the wing tee, are there kind of more set run plays for the quarterback in which they can run the football?
Yes, sir. Yeah. People start people start following your pulling guards. Okay, well, that quarterback can watch that, and if they follow that pulling guard too much or don't respect that quarterback on the backside, he can just keep it. So, and you can relate that to the wing tee too. You can always do that. He can always has the option to keep it, but it's more called when you're under center. If you're back in the shotgun like Auburn does, he can read that a whole lot better. So you can't trail from behind and try to catch it from behind. So as soon as you do, the quarterback's going to keep it and hit that edge.
I remember we were playing David Liscombe when I was at Page, and Liscombe's always been an old wing team.
Yes,
and we were in a pretty close ball game, and it's the second quarter, and we punted, got them down there on about the 7-yard line, and the dadgum very first play, they pulled the guards one way, quarterback faked it, and he kept it, and the next thing he's 93 yards down the field.
That was about it. And not many teams do that. They did do that. They did that a lot, and I guess it's called a sucker trap or something, but they would false pull those guards, and like I said, and they'll make you a liar because you're telling your linebackers, follow the guards, follow the guards. You're telling your D-line, follow the guards. And as soon as you do, they would tuck it and go the other way, but they did an excellent job of that. We played them a lot when we were in Lewisburg. That was one of our big rivals there. They only beat them once out of 6 years, so they were good.
Well, coming from Forest up, and then Forest is a single A or double A? They're 2A. And now you're at Summit, which is a 5A. But all the teams in your district, 11 AAA, are 6A football.
Yes, sir.
So what do you know about the teams in your district now?
Well, Coach? There's a lot of great coaches there, a lot of great coaches. All the coaches in the region are great coaches, and Coach Rector's giving me a call. He's a good guy. All of them are good guys. Coach Hester, and all of them are great coaches. It's going to be an uphill battle, but we've got to work, and we've been working a week in the weight room, so it's going to be an uphill battle. But our kids, I think, are ready to work hard and to put a good football team out there.
Well, I know when you played Ravenwood had a great year this year, and they used a spread concept and threw the ball quite a bit, threw a lot of screens. Then you got Dixon County. Dixon County is kind of like the old Dixon County, where they kind of line up and come right at you and try to smash mouth football.
And that reminded me of the old Page. You talked about Page before. That when we were playing Lewisburg, when we were in Lewisburg, Page would be that lineup in that I formation, stack and smokestack I, and come right after you. So
Jackie Bennett, the head coach back
yes, sir.
there? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. He loved that smokestack eye.
He loved that smokestack eye. Yeah. So, buckle down, and here they come at you. So, 1 week you'll have that, and Stewart's Creek, the new school in Rutherford County, wing T, Coach Martin, right? Coach Martin, he does an excellent job over there. He's an old Good Pasture coach. So there's another wing T team that we will see. Like I said, not very many in the state.
Right. I remember when I came in '97 at Brentwood High School, the region they put us in, back then we had regions that they put us in, we had like 5 teams in that region that ran the wing T at that time, back in '97.
Okay.
And then the very next year, back then they rotated you every 2 years. They put us in another region, and then we got away from the wing T teams, and it kind of rolled around. Then it kind of phased out a little bit, like you said. A lot of people going to the spread, throwing the football around a little bit more, but the wing T teams, our Good Pasture was always there with Coach Martin. I think my mind just went blank, but the coach at Mount Jewett just stepped down. He was at Portland.
Perry.
Coach Perry was a wing T guy.
He was, and he'd hurry up to the line, and you wouldn't. And I love the way he did. I saw them play one time, and they would huddle up. And Auburn does the same thing too. Also, they'd huddle up, and immediately they'd come to the line where you really didn't have time to see their formation. They'd snap the ball and be gone. And all that faking and hurrying up to the line was a great concept.
Well, I've got to know Dr. Farmer pretty well over the last 3.5 years since he's been here in the county, and those colors suit him pretty well.
Yeah, he's a huge Auburn fan. He's a huge Auburn fan. I walked in first or second time I ever met him, and he tried me a little bit. I like Coach Saban. I like Coach Nick Saban. I think he's a good coach. He's a program building coach, and I knew I'll never say that again. Not around him. Not around Dr. Farmer, because I almost got fired the first day. But he is a huge Auburn fan. Went to the national championship game. He's a great man, and he runs that school great. The kids respect him. The kids love him. They come by and talk to him. Yesterday he was in the cafeteria playing chess with some kids. So he's a great man. Gonna be fun to work for.
Now, Coach, when it comes back down to your assistants, are you the kind of coach that kind of oversees every aspect of the team, from the special teams, offense, defense, or you kind of say, hey, you guys, this is yours, you take it and run with it? I mean, what's your philosophy as far as being a head coach?
And like I've said, and last year at Forest, I was just the head coach, had offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and I'd like to do that, but it depends on how many people we can hire, how the staff's going to turn out. But I'd like to just say, the thing is that we want to run the wing T and we want to run 3-4 defense. So to give it to the guys and say, here you go. I'll teach them how to run it, but I'd like for the offensive staff to be an offensive staff, and I can help them with it. I'd like for us to get that way. Defensively, I'd kind of sort of like to run the defense for now, and then when I get comfortable, hand it over to somebody. That'd be fine. That'd be great. Because head coaches have so much to do nowadays, and even game management, they have so much to think about during the game. I'd like to not have to do that. But how the staff develops, that'll be a key to how we handle that.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now. You came in a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure that you got the kids in the weight room. So tell us basically how many kids you got working out, how your testing went with the kids in the weight room, and just what your mindset as a head coach is going into the off season here.
The first week we came in and just worked out with a bar. We want to work on technique. I want to make sure that all the kids have the correct technique so they don't get hurt in the weight room, because if you don't do things right, you're really not going to get stronger the correct way. So we just did a bar for a couple workouts. Once I thought they felt comfortable with that, we did max out. We do a run 1 rep max. That's how much weight you can lift, all together for just 1 rep. And bench, squat, and power clean. The bench press, the power. I like doing the power clean, which is from the ground up, because I think that's a football movement. I've got that from a lot of colleges. Football is a lot of hips and a lot of explosion, whether you're blocking or tackling or anything like that. So I think the power clean is a great football lift. And then squatting. I guess people call it back squatting because you put the bar on your back. So it's just a regular squat. What we do is we squat on a box that's 14 inches high. Now you don't settle on the box, you just touch it and go. That takes out, having to yell at a kid, go parallel, get down so far. I got this from Riverdale, from the coaches there, that you build a box that's 14 inches high, and they just have to fill the box with their butt or their hamstring, and then as soon as they fill that box, they come up. So we did the 1 rep max, got those numbers, because our whole system is based off that 1 rep max of 90% for 1 rep or things like that. As many times you do it. And we started actually working out this week. We're going to work out about 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, we're going to do agility type things, just build some speed and do some bag work, do some ladder work, try to get their feet quicker and get their feet better. Upperclassmen-wise right now, I think, next year's seniors, juniors, sophomores, we have about 56, 58 in the weight room right now. And then the freshmen are coming over. We've got about 26, 27 of them.
Okay.
So we've got a good number to work with.
So as a high school coach, what's that one rep max? I'm just going to throw bench in there because it's one of the easiest ones to look that you like to have your offensive lineman at.
Oh boy, well, 300, anything like that. It's got to be over their body weight for sure.
Okay.
20, 30% over their body weight would be great.
So that's kind of what you look at.
Yes, sir.
20, 30% over what a kid weighs.
That would be a good bench press. 300 pounds, something like that. Depends on what they weigh. If you, if you weigh well, of course, offensive lineman's not going to weigh. But if you're 200 pounds and you're benching 300, that's excellent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's excellent. And power cleaning. The 250-pound power clean is excellent. Is excellent. That's really, really good. That's a really strong young man if he can do that. So around the 200-pound range and squatting. I've seen kids squat 500 or 600 pounds, but sometimes you got to stop them because they can do more than
Right.
You don't want to see
safety factor there too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No doubt. It's scary to see a kid put 500 pounds on their back and squat it. And there's a lot of them that can. There's a lot of them that can, but it's awful scary. So about the 400-pound range would be nice.
So when you went through your testing with your kids at Summit, did you have any guys kind of hit those goals that you had in your mind that you? Yes,
sir. We've got some strong kids.
Yeah.
We've got some strong kids, and the assistant coaches kept them working out. While there wasn't a head coach in that transition phase, so they're by no means not accustomed to the weight room, and their form was good. So now we just got to implement this program and get them going in this program. I think that'll help them out a lot.
And I was out there a couple of weeks ago, and I think you were getting ready to do your actually first day of lifting with them, going through your set program, which you were talking about. How'd that go?
It went
Did
well.
they make it through it okay?
They went, yeah.
I know you do it on the whistle with the one, rep
we
at
call
a time.
Out, yes, sir. We call out reps. I got that from Coach Dobbs at Riverdale. If the kids are supposed to do 8 reps, I will count to 8. That way, you just don't let them go. High school kids will be high school kids. Sometimes when they get really, really tired, that 8 might turn out to be a 6 or a 5. Even though you have great kids, if you get tired, their mind gets wandering, and they'll do about 6 reps when they're supposed to do 8. But if a coach counts it out and you've got the whole weight room doing the same thing, first of all, they're looking at their buddy where he's going. So, it helps, and you don't skip any reps. And it keeps the pace. I can control the pace, though. We can go faster or slower. We can modify that pace. But they did well. Coach Kirby, I was messing with Coach Kirby, our athletic director, and some of the other coaches. We had the mirrors fogged up. It was like a steam room in there. I was like, man, I don't know if this weight room's ever been like this before. And Coach Kirby naturally said, oh, yeah, we work out that hard, too, for baseball. So
okay.
A little competition there.
Yeah, I understand. That's good, too, most of the other coaches and other sports. What do you feel like is football's part in the overall picture of the school? What part do they play?
And that's what attracted me to the job. Dr. Farmer and Coach Kirby said they want, football to be the face of the school. They want it to be important. And it's important for a lot of, because it's the first sport that you start, and it starts off the school year. If you're successful and people are supportive of you and you get the kids excited, well, then they're excited, that momentum brings on to the rest of the school year. So they want to treat football as an important sport in the school. And, that's a very attractive, as a football coach. And it, like I said, it gets the momentum, gets the kids excited throughout the school year.
Now, I know we've been talking about the weight room quite a bit, and we're talking about the off season, but you continue that on in the regular season once the season started?
Yes, sir.
How much
doubt.
time do you spend in the weight room?
We scale it down and modify the workouts a little bit. But we need to lift at least 2 days a week because your season is so long. If you go from August till October and don't touch a weight, you're naturally going to get a little bit weaker. It's hard to do now. It's hard to make time to do that, but it's important, I think.
Well, Coach, I got a few questions here that's kind of like off the top of your head type stuff, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so kind of first thought that comes to your mind on these now. All right, here we go. Cloud of dust or let her fly?
Cloud of dust.
Okay.
No doubt.
Read and react or attack and disrupt?
Attack and destruct.
Okay. College or pro?
College.
All right.
No doubt.
Well, which would be your favorite team, Coach? I know Saban's at Alabama. Is that where we got to go? We got to go there, Coach.
You'll get me fired. I like Alabama for a couple reasons. I like Coach Saban, and when I was in Lewisburg, I coached Dante Hightower, and he was at Alabama for a few years, and he's right now with the Patriots. So kind of sort of turned into an Alabama fan, you know.
So you're a New England fan now too?
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
Kind of, sort of. I like to watch him play. I've always been a Chicago Bears fan. Back when I was a kid, you know, with the Super Bowl Shuffle. I'm showing my age. The Super Bowl Shuffle and We're in the Refrigerator Perry and people like that, you know. But I've always been a Bears fan, but they're frustrating right now. So, you know, go with the front runner, I guess, in the Patriots.
So you're an SEC fan versus other?
SEC fan, no doubt. Bowl, you know, the whole bowl scenario. I'd like to see SEC win.
Yeah. So I think the SEC went 7-3 this year, maybe.
I think so.
Georgia
lost, Alabama lost. Yes, sir.
And Auburn lost. Yeah. All right. So I was that way, but I've got to that point now where Alabama wins so cotton picking much. It's getting hard for me to root for them anymore. You know, because Tennessee. I'm a graduate from Tennessee, and we've been down for a while now. So I'm trying to give Coach Jones all my support and helping him recruiting as much as I can. So
brick by brick.
So we can, brick by brick till we get back up there. Well, Coach, let's see. Your relationship with Riverdale, do you see you guys schedule them on down the line sometime?
I don't know about that now. I don't know.
I know your schedule's made out for you for next year.
It is made out for us next year.
because they're 2-year contracts, and they're talking. There's a lot of talk about they may revamp the whole football playoff. They may go back to 5 classifications and go back to regions.
Let's just say that Coach A-Lot won't be the first phone call I make.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. So let's talk about fundraisers for your football program.
In April, we're going to do a lift-a-thon. What we'll do with a lift-a-thon is the kids will ask for pledges. You know, would you sponsor me for a penny a pound? Those 3 maxes, the bench, squat, and the power clean, what they do is they add up their 3 maxes and get one number. And they'll ask for pledges or things like that. And we'll do the lift-a-thon in April. What we'll do is we'll put the weight room, we'll bring a couple racks into the gym and invite the public to watch the kids more or less lift weights and show off what they've been doing for the past couple of months.
All right, Coach. Well, welcome to Williamson County, Brian.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. We'd like to have good people in Williamson County. And best of luck out there at Summit with Dr. Farmer and Coach Kirby. They're good people to work with.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us for this portion of the Williamson County Sports Connection. I'm Jack Daniels, your host.
Homework. It's either something you love or you hate, right? Well, research shows that a reasonable amount of homework is actually good for your child. It helps them practice the skills they've learned at school and build a sense of responsibility. But how can you keep homework from being a battleground at your house? Try some of these tips. First of all, be sure your child has a quiet place to work and be sure that place has a good lighting. Make sure there's a regular homework time at your house every day. Even if your child doesn't have homework, that time can be used for reading, studying for upcoming tests, or working on a project. Be sure your child has all the supplies she needs in one place so that time is not wasted looking for those supplies. Be available for questions. You may even want to go over some sample questions at the beginning, but remember, homework is your child's responsibility. Be sure to encourage her to do the homework independently. Keep track of the time your child spends doing homework. The general rule is 10 minutes per grade level. If your child is consistently unable to do the homework by herself or spending more than the recommended amount of time, it may be time to talk to your child's teacher and find out how you can help make the most of her homework time. Remember to stay connected. You're a vital link in your child's success. I'm Steve Fisher, and this is the Parent Connection.